himself, the former leader of the New Democratic Party of Canada. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to be with you, Todd.
All right, what does that poll tell you?
That it's tough times for the Conservatives and for Pierre Poilievre. He's sticking to his guns. People are saying he should jettison the lead, the person who's handling his campaign, Jenny Byrne. He's saying, no, we've got important things to talk about with Canadians. And once in a while, he catches an even break. There was a candidate that Mark Carney should, by all accounts and any moral compass, have jettisoned from his campaign, and he's holding on to him. So there's still lots of politics left in this thing. I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't decide this thing in advance based on this poll, but it does show that things are going in the right direction for the Liberals and definitely in the wrong direction for Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives.
Right. So do you think that they should pivot, that they should change strategies, that they should, perhaps adapt more to what's going on in Washington, or stick to, as they are doing, domestic issues, Tom, about, building the housing and fighting the crime and bringing down the taxes and whatnot?
When you go through the list that you just started, and I would add axe the tax, Mark Carney has stolen most of that thunder from Pierre Poilievre. And it was an artful theft. I mean, they saw three things change over the past couple of months. We had, of course, the arrival of Trump. We had the departure of Trudeau and the arrival of Carney. Changed the entire political landscape in front of Poilievre's and his team's eyes. They didn't adapt fast enough. And it's something that Nick Nanos, we just heard speak before, he's been saying that for some time. It's a basic rule. When what you're doing doesn't work, try something else. And Mr. Poilievre is very slow. There's a huge lag between the changes out there and their ability to adapt to it in the campaign. So it's not that what he's saying doesn't make sense. I mean, he's had very sensible proposals on, a boost to the tax-free savings account. How many Canadians does that help? Not clear. And how many of them are already voting Conservative? He had a very complicated thing, quite interesting, on, people who cash in, make a capital gain if you kept the money here. Complicated, but interesting. But it's not a political campaign about nerdy ideas. It's a political campaign about the future of the country. And Donald Trump has threatened to make Canada the 51st state. In his conversation with Mark Carney on Friday, that seemed to tone down a bit. Does that take over the entire campaign? Perhaps for a week. Wait till Liberation Day on Wednesday. That's Trump's expression for when he imposes tariffs on the planet. What's going to happen after that? There's still going to be 3.5 weeks of campaigning left, Todd. This thing ain't decided yet, even though it's going in the right direction for the Libs and in the wrong direction for the Conservatives.
Yeah, I mean, you fought a lot of election campaigns over the years. 28 days to go, give or take. There are debates coming up. There are a lot of events. There's always the possibility, right, of like gaffes, mistakes, slip-ups, and then there's the Trump factor. Is it fair to say that the more Trump interferes in the Canadian election, Tom, that helps the Liberals?
It's hard to say, because when Trump came out and started talking against, he didn't even have either of their names, against the Conservative who had said bad things about him, and then in favor of the Liberals, some people are scratching their heads saying, well, why would he do that? And, we saw Poilievre jump on that right away, say, it's because I'm so strong, that's why Trump doesn't want me coming in. Okay. A nice way to try to recover from that situation. But it was quite clear once Mark, that was the name that Trump used for Prime Minister Carney, once Mark was able to have that relatively friendly discussion with Trump, and there seemed to be a sudden drop in the temperature in the room, then Canadians were able to see Carney as being the guy who's worked at the highest level internationally, who has handled very deep crises in his career, and is probably the best person to handle this crisis. So whether that crisis remains at the front of the news for the next 3.5 weeks will actually determine whether or not Trump does have that deciding effect.
And what about the NDP and the Bloc, Tom? What do you think?
Very difficult for the third, fourth, and fifth parties. So that would be the Bloc, the NDP, and the Greens, because there are 5 parties in Parliament. And those 3 are just turning into roadkill. Like, I live in Laurentians. I can tell you that the local candidate up here, Liberals, has a serious chance of winning. Not something I would have thought even possible 3 months ago. But because this is, by the way, deep, dyed in the wool Bloc Québécois territory where I live. And they're sinking like a rock in water in their support. They're running a lawyer from Montreal. She's got a bit of a media presence, basically figured that all she had to do was show up and put her name on the ballot. Not turning out that way. So the Liberals are looking at the possibility of winning ridings that they haven't won in years, and in areas of the province where they haven't had a real presence for years. If that continues, and Carney does seem to have a lot of support, if that continues, then all hope is there for the from the Liberal point of view. You mentioned before the debates, there was a boneheaded decision by the people around Mark Carney last week to bring him down to only one French debate. Now, a lot of people can say, well, why two French debates and one English? Well, if you look at the campaigns and the question periods and the questions from the journalists and the interventions, 85% of this campaign, 90% is in English. It's not a luxury to have a second debate. And it would have been a good idea, a smart decision, to give Carney a second opportunity. Let's say the first debate doesn't go well. Now he's stuck. He's in a corner. If there is a problem, and his French is still a work in progress, and some of these issues can be very tricky, and he hasn't been around for a number of years. If there is a banana peel that he slips on, he could be in trouble, and it could be played up by the Conservatives, and it could catch on, and the Bloc would certainly try to make something of it. So one bad decision by the people around him made him not go to the second debate. That debate got canceled, and there's been a lot of hard feeling, I have to tell you, because I work in the media that was going to put that one on. It's caused a lot of hard feeling.
Tom Mulcair, political commentator, former leader of the New Democrats. Good to see you, my friend.
Great to see you too, Todd. All the best.
Yeah, long way to go. All right.